So tonight, Debbie and Stefan will address us on, I've lost that again, the business of doing good business, um, which is particularly pertinent in these times. The good thing to see that businesses are slowly focusing on turning away from profit above all else to focusing more on humans and contributing and looking after their people and adding to communities and countries. It's a very good turn. I think this topic came up. Debbie and I have had long discussions on the pros and cons of marketing and advertising and branding. I tend to have a negative view of these tactics, particularly in the light of the nudge persuasion we have seen in the media over the last 2 years, driving people into certain behaviors. Debbie, on the other hand, is the eternal optimist and only sees the upside, and I think that prompted tonight's topic. So I'm looking forward to an interesting evening. Debbie will take us through how this is going to work, and I see we've got our snacks and liquids. This is going to be an interesting discussion, and I'm really looking forward to it. Over to you, Debs.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This week has been really busy, but I've been so excited. It's such an opportunity. I'm so grateful that you guys can have me on here talking about something that I'm absolutely obsessed about. So it's wonderful. I just wanted to give you an introduction, a brief background. So my background, I come from fast-moving consumer goods originally, and very much in the space of brands. Moving across to Namibia, I came into the advertising world and really worked on, I was kind of spoiled starting off with Unilever in South Africa, where you were given brand positioning and purpose on a platter, and you just had to adapt it for your market and roll it out. Coming to Namibia, I really started to research brands and purpose and what it meant to get people fired up around a purpose and moving people in a direction, obviously in a very profit-driven position, selling consumer goods. So in the last few years, it's all really about human behavior. So tonight I'm really going to talk about purpose-driven business and business as a force for good. Stefan, who's also on the call, and I are very interested in good business and what that really means. And I know this is a little bit like preaching to the converted, because we've got some wonderful people in the room here. And everybody that I can see here is really interested in purpose-driven human beings, basically. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share.
So can I say 2 words before you start, Deb?
Yes, please.
So yeah, maybe just to add on, I think Debbie and I share this passion for businesses that have a meaningful impact in the world. So we've done a few sessions around the business of doing good business. So Debbie has done most of the work and the research, and I joined in with some talking. But in my background, I'm a chartered accountant. I'm currently the CEO at Tripefire Studios, which is the journey in the last 3 years that I want to share a little bit with you about. And I spent, before that, 17 years I was at PwC, and I worked in various divisions in PwC, but very much in a corporate structure. So then I turned my life upside down and I moved to media. And moved into this different world, and the journey that we're sharing today really is Debbie contributed a lot to the thinking that underlies Tripefire Studios that we've been putting together, and the journey that we've been on ever since. So that's why we thought to combine these sessions today, for Debbie to talk about what our purpose-driven business is, to explain that, and for me to give some of the practical lessons of things that I've experienced in the last 3 years.
Cool, thanks, Stefan. So I'm going to get cracking, because yesterday I was so excited about the topic. I had a presentation of like 100 slides, and I managed to narrow that down to 20 that I'm going to whip through so that we can have a nice discussion afterwards. So let's see. I always start anybody that's been in any of my presentations, I start with a slide. And I think if you've done any coaching or leadership things, you will see this quote. And it's from Anna Lynn, and it says, "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." And I'd just like to remind everybody that as we come into these presentations, we bring all of our history and research and the space that we are operating from. And I'd really like everybody, if you could, just to keep an open mind and a fresh view and perspective of what we're going to talk about tonight. So because there's a lot of paradox and interesting things and emotions in the world in terms of how people view things. So where are we now in the world? As Claire said, it's a very interesting time.
Maybe we're just not stuck on the first slide. I don't know if you're wanting
stuck on the first slide. I will thank you, Anna. See, that's why Anna is here.
Yeah, we will, for all the nice design work that you did, we were also stuck on a screen where we could still see the commands at the top.
So you guys must keep me on track here. And now,
we have three. Here it is, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So let me know if it gets stuck again. So where are we now in the world? And as Claire said, I am an optimist, but I am a realistic optimist. And I think in terms of the realization of what's happened over the last year is that we are all connected, okay? We have an absolute feeling that we are kind of connected to the planet at the moment, that we have to care for people's well-being, that as a community, we have no choice in terms of going forward in the world. A lot of things have come to the surface, and everybody's aware of inequalities, the big gaps in the systems. So from one point of view, the cracks have started to show, which I think is a good thing. And from the second point of view is it's incredible what we have managed to do as a collective since January 2019. We won't debate about whether it's good or bad or what's happened over the year, but we can move things as a collective on this globe and the planet if we aim it in the right direction. So in the shift, a good old Milton Friedman quote, Milton Friedman 50 years ago said, the social responsibility of business is to increase its profits so long as it stays within the rules of the game. And the rules of the games have changed, okay, tremendously over the last 50 years. And now, CF and I really believe that the business of business has to be improving the state of the world. I'm not going to go into stats and figures because I think in this group, everybody's been reading all the headlines and purpose is the new buzzword and purpose-driven business. But basically, consumers are demanding it. Yes?
Our slides are still stuck. So let's just quickly try and sort that out.
Sorry.
If you're on there.
That's better.
So just move back and forwards and let's just see if it works.
Is it working?
Yep.
Okay. Go back again. So this is, I think this,
Okay.
Working.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, this is so we're on the Milton Friedman slide, so we didn't see that one.
Stefan, you need to let me know. Jump in when you want, Stefan. Or if anybody, go for it.
No, you can go.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So guys, we know if you look at it, consumers are demanding it, the stats are showing it, the world is demanding it, the earth is demanding it environmentally, our employees are demanding it. If you look at all the research across Gen Z and millennials, people want to work and add a meaningful contribution to society and the world. So I'm not going to stick on all the stats. And we know that it's time to move. So the new slide says, what is a purpose-driven business? Are we there? Cool. And there are a lot of definitions hanging around, and this is kind of one that's gaining traction. And this is by Professor Colin Mayer, who's from the Side Business School in England. And he says a purpose-driven business's role is to produce profitable solutions to the problems of people and planet, okay? And not to profit from producing problems for people or planet, which I think is it's kind of a really wonderful space to position purpose-driven business. And the exercise today is not to create another silo, okay? So I'm very aware that this is a very holistic thing. Looking at a purpose-driven business, you have to be holistic about it. And it revolves around the people that we employ, the communities that we care for. It is about a positive impact for planet and environment and society. So if you just look at that, I mean, if you look at all the thinking around ecosystems, your value proposition or the business, the space that you operate is the place that you hold in the world. But we can no longer avoid looking at the relationships and the positive relationships that we need to take care of as purpose-driven businesses. Our employees, our consumers, our suppliers, our partners, what's happening with government, legislative bodies, communities, competitors. And the base of that, it's so interesting. I always look at it, if you look at airlines and you talk about safety, safety has got to be the base of any airline. Okay, it's like a non-negotiable. And I think going forward, good for the environment and the planet is the base of any business that we start to work on going forward. It's a non-negotiable. Okay, slide change. This is a great, I just wanted to put this out there, and this is not about putting us into a silo again, but it's looking at where purpose-driven business fits in, okay, on a spectrum. There's a spectrum from non-profits on the left to for-profits on the right. And if you look at the left, you're looking at charities, okay, which address social and environmental issues through programs, NGOs, charities that survive on grants and philanthropy, okay, and they are doing good work, excellent work in the world. Social enterprises, addressing social and environmental issues through programs and business activities, okay, so they are running off grants, philanthropy, and commercial returns. And so now there's this interesting space in the middle where some people will say, okay, well, social enterprises are purpose-driven businesses, but purpose-driven businesses, by definition, would address social and environmental issues and deliver profit to investors through business activity. Okay, so operating on commercial returns. And then on the right, you have the profit-driven businesses and the for-profits, delivering profit to financial owners through business activity and commercial returns. So even within, and I was saying to Stefan, within the spectrum of purpose-driven businesses, you have businesses that are leaning more towards social impact and social enterprise work. And then you have businesses that are leaning more towards the for-profits. So that's a huge scale in terms of how they're operating. But what you can see with the little worlds is that the purpose-driven businesses, the social enterprises, and the charities, we are all working towards a better world. Okay, making the world a better place. Okay, next slide. This is I love doing this activity because to me, if you start to talk about purpose-driven business, you have to talk about purpose-driven people. And when you're operating in the space, and I do this exercise, is to talk about the world that you imagine. Okay, because purpose-driven business is a lot about alignment. It's about alignment in the cause between ourselves and the place that we operate from, and the place that we operate from as teams, and the place that we operate from as businesses within the context of creating a positive impact in the world. So just for a little exercise, and I'm going to use the chat box, I'd like you just for a minute, just to think, and how would you complete this sentence? Okay. And I imagine a world where, and if you can just put that in the chat box. So complete the sentence. I imagine the world where. I think Stefan will be ahead of this game. He's cheating because he's done this before.
And I did it before any of my team could type it.
Okay, so pop that in the chat when you've done it. So Stefan says he imagines a world where every human being has a chance of achieving their full potential. Anna imagines a world where people, the environment, and economies thrive. Oh, where conflicts are resolved peacefully, where purpose drives the world, where everybody's basic needs are met. Willis says, where all beings are regarded the right to life. This is an incredible exercise. Here's Dana. Everyone has the opportunity to be happy in a sustainable way. What's amazing about this exercise is that I've never done it with a team, a group of people, where people don't want to live in a better world, okay? Where they don't want to see, everybody wants to see a world where everyone has access to opportunities, where the planet is thriving, where people are educated, where everybody's basic needs are met. So it's an incredible exercise to do within your teams, because what it shows is, number one, and it's an exercise of brutal honesty, because it's about, that is the world that I imagine, and what am I doing every day to act in the direction of creating that world? Okay, so there's sometimes a disconnect between the spaces that we operate in, if we have to be brutally honest, the jobs that we're doing, the business that we're running, Tuba says where our children can dream and live to see the reality of their dreams. And Richard says where people are motivated to help others to be happy. It's a credible, I know you guys will all know Gregor. Gregor, if I can steal one of his values, has an unwavering faith in humanity. And I think this exercise always gives me the feeling of unwavering faith in humanity. And Ginger says from Nad, a world where elephants roam free. Very beautiful. Okay, so moving on, because I know I'm going to time issues. What makes a truly purpose-driven company? And this is what I'm absolutely passionate about. So I'm going to unpack it here. Is the slides changing, Stefan? Nana? Cool. So number one, what makes a truly purpose-driven organization, okay, is that you have a clearly set out, and it must be clearly set out, authentic, practical, and inspiring purpose that will benefit society, okay? And when I come back to being brutally honest about this, it's a really deep reflection on what you really stand for in the world, okay? It's how are you adding meaning for yourself and meaning to others? What is your reason for being, and where can you have a unique positive impact on society? I know Anna and I have debates about this all the time. And things you need to know about purpose. And this is a very interesting thing, because we can have a long discussion about startups and entrepreneur, people where you're leading a company in the beginning, and how do those is it your personal purpose that is put onto the company as an organizational purpose? And if you're transforming a huge business that has been running, where does that purpose come from? Okay, so in many businesses, it's an origin story. In your personal purpose, it's also an origin story. It's most likely already there, driven by the purpose-driven individuals, okay, within that organization. And if you uncover it, it'll come to the front. What we must also know is that it's not about CSR or compliance, okay? When I talk about that, CSR is wonderful, okay? It has a space, corporate social responsibility, and people are doing wonderful things with CR money, and I'm not vilifying it or putting it anywhere else, but it's not, CSR is in a silo, okay? And when we talk about purpose-driven organizations, we're talking about really acting from a space of purpose across the organization and the business and its services and products. And when I say it's not about compliance, compliance is really important, but purpose is an inside-out thing, okay? It's acting from source. Sometimes when we look at compliance, we are so busy fulfilling compliance issues that we are acting from outside in. And purpose is driven from inside out. It's a human thing, guys. It is a benefit to people. It is absolutely about the value and the service that you are offering to people. Your purpose statement is not a unique selling proposition, okay? And when we talk about brand work, we talk about positioning yourself uniquely, blue ocean thinking, you might be aware of that, where you really create a space for yourself somewhere within a market. It is not. A purpose statement could be exactly the same as somebody else's. Actually, if you love someone else's, you can steal it from a personal point of view. It is literally a human thing. It is not related to the industry that you work in. And I know that sometimes it's really difficult for people to move out of the space that they're operating in. But a purpose is something that never changes, okay? It's a human thing. If something happens in your industry tomorrow and you need to pivot your entire business, okay? Or you leave your old job where you were there for 20 years experience, it is not about your title. If you need to pivot, it stays with you. You take it with you. Your organization, your team will still stay, but your purpose, the industry that you're operating, your mission might change. Okay. This is huge, and I just need to put it out there, because discovering your purpose is a journey, not an event. Okay, it's not a 2-hour workshop. People come, we need a purpose statement. Can you please help me? We've got 2 hours on Friday. No, it's a journey. Okay, it's a huge process. So I've got to use the poster child for purpose-driven business here, Patagonia. We can have a huge debate whether or not we think they're truly purpose-driven, but Patagonia actually, and only in the last 18 months to 2 years, has moved to a purpose statement. Okay, before they were operating very much of a kind of a mission statement in terms of where they were providing their value in the world. So their purpose at the moment is, we're in business to save our home planet. Okay, and if you think back to those points, a purpose statement has to be authentic. Okay, it has to be inspiring. It is a human thing that is relatable to society and is not about what business they're in. I always talk, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the industry they're in. Tomorrow, I always say, if Patagonia has to launch a cell phone that explodes into seeds and regenerates, I will buy a cell phone from them. I mean, it comes really back to buying into what they're trying to do and moving that through the process. Okay, so number 2. So number 1 is about intent, genuine intent and authentic purpose. Number 2 is how central is the purpose to the business model? Okay, and this is a very clear defining point where many businesses go wrong. Is the purpose and your guiding values that you come up with stay up on a wall and it is not taken across into the business model. So this is a little model that I work with, and I mean, if you talk about purpose and reason for being and ethos, and you come back into really human-centered purpose, in the Japanese in Okinawa have a thing called ikigai, which is a reason for being. Okay, it's about your life's purpose. And for me, it makes complete sense to apply it into a business context. So if you look on the left of the screen, as you have, sorry guys, I wish this was the whiteboard and I could make little notes, and Anna will tell me how to do that later. But anyway, on the left of the screen, you have your purpose. Okay, and Simon Sinek, if you want to relate this back to Simon Sinek, is your why. It is your emotional brain, the place that you operate from. Okay, so remember, people don't buy what you make, they buy why you make it. Okay, so here is your purpose and your values and guiding principles. They don't change. When we start to talk about taking it across into a business model or how you run your business, then we're talking about you're placing your purpose in the context on the left here of the skill of your skills and assets.
With some like a level.
Somebody's on there. So on the left there is your skills and assets. So the particular place that you can add value in the world. And we talk about your mission. Okay, how are we going to move towards that vision, the world that you imagined? And how are we going to move to that? That is our mission. And that is a result of your purpose, integrating that with your particular skills and assets. Where can you apply force or energy to move towards that vision in the context of what the world needs? And I think that's really important, guys, because when we talk about society and environment and the space that we can make a difference in the world, every decision needs to come back to this: our purpose, our skills and assets, what the world needs. And finally, because I always have this, people look at me and when I talk about purpose, I get a lot of rolled eyeballs that says, well, don't tell me that find your purpose and the money will come. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're running a profitable business here. This needs to make sense. You need to be financially rewarded for what you're doing in the world, in the context of what the world really truly needs to move towards the vision that you're creating. So if you look at Patagonia, and this actually was their old mission statement, but it really is now in terms of the place that they're operating in, is building the best product, causing no unnecessary harm, using business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. And that runs through all of their products, all of their services. If you start to look at the integrated reporting, those are the things they're reporting on. Okay, the financials don't come into it. And I didn't speak about that earlier, but we talk a lot about this moving from an either or society to a both and you'll say, a lot of people would say purpose-driven business is about purpose and profit. I think purpose-driven business is about purpose and profit as a result. So it is a key result of really implementing your purpose properly, and a positive impact society is a key result of implementing your purpose properly. So
in other words, follow your purpose and the money will come. I was still on that one, Debbie. I didn't realize you changed.
Sorry. Okay, so can you see the new slide here? Does the way your business is governed, or the business is governed and operated, reflect your purpose? Okay, so this is really about how we are operating, and are we operating in line with our purpose? Guys, where is our purpose? Is it on the boardroom table? Okay, when we are having shareholder discussions, when we are talking about the business, is the first thing that comes up. Are we using it in our succession planning, in our attention? How are we, I mean, I know Stefan will talk about right people on the bus later, but purpose-driven businesses are driven by purpose-driven people. Okay, and when you take that through, you attract the right people. Okay, and that's where a lot of sustainability comes into the issue. I must just say, and I'll give you another Patagonia example, and Stefan laughed at this, but Patagonia encourages their staff to protest peacefully against climate, any sorts of climate change and action. And in their employment contracts, they will pay the bail fee if you get arrested during a peaceful climate protest. So Stefan laughed at that. But guys, it's really
Ned and the elephants will like that.
Yeah. And so when we talk about branding, we're talking about communication, we talk about the golden thread. Okay, taking the golden thread and weaving it through all of your communication. And here we're talking about taking purpose and making it part of the DNA of your organization. Okay. And I think that is incredibly important. And the last thing in terms of the 4 big things. So first was intent. Let's go back, I'm going to get confused. And number 4 is, do we measure what matters? Okay, and I know in the last 29ers meeting, we were talking about ESGs and frameworks and reporting, but it's really important, and it is really important, okay, in a purpose-driven business to try and measure the impact of what we are doing. But one of the flags, and it also talks a lot to the way that we have started to measure digital attribution, this like everything goes back to clicks and likes. We don't also want to focus so much on measuring, okay, that we also forget what we're trying to do, that we take all our attention away from purpose and getting that right, getting the impact right. But yes, we do need to measure what matters. And I just quickly want to talk, this is one of there are so many tools and frameworks. And earlier I didn't talk about the SDGs because when I imagine a world in the context of those SDGs. So when I do this exercise with teams, it's really about alignment. It's saying, our business, how does our business fit into the SDGs, into the Sustainable Development Goals as a whole? Because we must all be plugging in to making this a better world and a better process. So just quickly, there's so many different tools and frameworks, but I just wanted to talk about B Corps, because B Corps, there are about 3,000 B Corps worldwide, and you'll see a lot of some of the big brands. Patagonia is a certified B Corp. And they envision a global economy that uses business as force for good. It is a certification, okay, which basically looks at your purpose-driven, creating benefit for all stakeholders and not shareholders. But I just want to say, I'm not recommending that you go and get certified as a B Corp. It's very expensive, okay? And I don't think, it does not make you purpose-driven. So when we look at these assessments and frameworks, these are just tools to help you see where you are in the process. And they have a fantastic, B Lab has a fantastic tool called the B Impact Assessment, which is free. And it really looks at measuring your company's impact on workers, community, customers, environment, and government. So those are the 5 things that they measure. It's absolutely free. I've done it for myself. My one-man show, you log in, you can basically see where you're standing. It does not mean to say that you are 100% changing the world and doing business as you should be doing. It is saying at this point in time, this is how I rate myself on these things. And it is a process of improvement. And I know Stefan will talk about that later. But it's really fantastic to see how people are working across silos. So the B Lab has also created an SDG action manager to see how you're tracking against the SDGs, and also with GRI to see how you can integrate those 2 reporting systems and really use it for your reporting going forward. So I said to Claire last time that we had a huge debate about ethical marketing as ethical businesses. And I'm not going to go too much into that, but I'm going to really talk about all the washings, because I think it's a big space at the moment and it's a big question mark in terms of how do we communicate and talk about what we're doing with our businesses in the space of sustainable business. So the definition whitewashing comes in from deliberately attempting to conceal unpleasant or incriminating facts about someone or something. Okay, that's the definition of whitewashing. And now you have all of these offshoots. People are, the good old one was greenwashing. So when we first started speaking about being environmentally friendly, everybody was said, we recycle, here's our packet, we recycle, this is great. Our company is trying to be green. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're not recycling at the office or having unethical practices in their supply chain. Woke washing, a really contentious issue at the moment, is how can you talk about diversity and Black Lives Matter campaigns when you are not doing it at home, okay? When internally you're not dealing with DEI, Okay, purpose washing, the same space. You see purpose everywhere. I'm really worried that people are going to get purpose fatigued because you're going to lose the momentum of actually what we're meant to be doing in this space. And purpose washing is also about transparency. Is exactly that, the golden thread. Are we saying, and what is there alignment between what we're saying, what we're thinking, and what we're doing in the world? Okay, because then you're going to be called out. And cancel culture, where people are canceling brands. If you take one step out of line, people are like, call you out on social media and you're out. Okay, so I think when you talk about, when we go into this purpose washing and work washing and greenwashing, it's a huge paradox. On the one hand, we need all of you to talk about the good things that you're doing in the world, because people need to see that people are trying. They may be failing, but they're getting better at what they're doing. So when you do that, you need to be honest and say, guys, we are not there. We are very aware that we are not doing everything on this side, but we are trying to move. Okay, and this is where we're trying to move, and this is how we're going to move, and this is what we're doing. And on the other side, you really need to try to make it transparent and line up. Okay, so there's two sides to the scale. But anyway, I know that I've taken a lot of time. So just two more things. This is something that it's just gone a little bit funny on the slides, but it's something I shared with Anna, and I really think to me, it's resonated with a lot of people that I've presented to, because it gives them a framework to really, that's human, okay, and understanding what we're talking about here. One is purpose inspires, guys. It's the reason you get up in the morning. It inspires your employees. It connects consumers to companies and brands. Your values are your guiding principles. Okay, so your purpose inspires you, your values guide you. It's how you show up in the world. Your actions, and when we talk about the what's, your purpose is your why, your values are your how. When we talk about the what's, your actions represent you. Okay, so what you're putting out in the world, your products, your adverts, your services, that is the representation of what you stand for. Okay, and that is why alignment is so important. But the last one, which is actually to me is the defining thing, is habits define you. Guys, if we do not take our purpose in terms of our purpose-driven businesses and put it in front of people every day, okay, it does not become a part of the culture. It's got to be on in every meeting. It's got to be what we talk about. It's got to be how we answer the phone. If you want it to really resonate and to guide your business in terms of making strategic decisions, you need to make it live in that organization. Okay, last slide, and then I'm done. So this is from a book called The Sustainability Puzzle, which is just launched by two amazing women in Europe, Claudia Winkler and her partner. And she's been working Claudia Winkler actually specifically works in the business space. And I think it's such a nice, just little graphic in terms of really zooming out on the sustainability puzzle, because it is very complex and there's a lot of gray space. And it just shows where sustainable business fits in there. We're just a piece of the puzzle, okay, in terms of circular economy, climate action, playing fair, responsible consumption. We can have a huge discussion on tech for good. And I really like the fact that it's all connected, okay. And as I said, we've realized last year that we are all connected. And the last thing, and those few points is, Claire, this one's for me, is we need to remain optimistic, okay, because it's really easy to be cynical and to push back and get defensive about the space that you're in. And if we want to work across silos, we need to remain optimistic. We need to collaborate across sectors and silos. We need to support systems change. We need to measure what matters. We need to look for ways to multi-solve, and we need to build back happier, okay, in terms of the work we're doing. And just this last quote, and I think this is fabulous coming from a creative space. Doing business is all about human behavior. And human behavior is simply not predictable in its full range and weirdness and beauty. And I think if you're working or trying to work or trying to transform into a purpose-driven business, there are not a lot of rules. There are so many amazing tools out there, and Stefan's going to talk to you about the practicalities, but you need to go easy and kind on yourself, because it's difficult and not everything just fits magically into a box, and you have to do lots of workarounds and really owning your purpose and presenting that to the world and really making a positive impact in society. Cool. That is it from me. I think what we're going to do is, Stefan, do you think we should wait until the end to ask questions, or wait until the end?
Yeah, I think so. But maybe if you
Perfect.
quickly want to if you guys want to take a 2-minute
Yeah,
break, and let's just
2-minute
get the
break.
energy up. So you can take out your earphones and rub your ears, or fill up a glass, or just stand up and sit down. And we get our energy levels back before we get back into it.
Cool.
Thanks, Debbie. That was great.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, if anybody has any questions that they would like us to address later, you can pop them in the chat in case we don't forget. We don't want to forget about them.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Thank you, Zell. I love you too.
Okay, everyone, I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I'm here not because we are there. So there's a lot of people from my team and from my management team on here that know our deep, dark secrets of where we do not get things right. But we are here, and I'm here because I believe our heart is in the right place, and we've aimed in the direction of putting together a purpose-driven business that really has a big, positive, meaningful impact in the world. So, as I said, Tri-Fi Studios operate in the media space, and Claire alluded to some of the discussions that her and Debbie had about the media, and media in the world really at the moment is not in a very healthy space. And yeah, I've wondered often why I've chosen this industry, and I think the universe got me here to teach me something. It is an incredibly difficult industry in the fact that it is disrupted. And currently, if you look at what is happening in the media space, maybe the quote from the journalist who helped the whistleblower for the Cambridge Analytica whistleblowing disclosure, Christopher Wiley, spoke about Facebook, and she said Facebook is a crime scene, and talking about misinformation, distrust, just plain lies and fake news on there. And if you look at traditional media, I mean, I speak to most of the people in our country, and people roll their eyes about media and say, well, the reporting isn't exactly great. And the media struggles with clickbait and headlines that are just there for pulling attention and creating sensationalism, and being silent about some things that should be spoken about, and then over amplifying some things that doesn't need as much attention. So generally in the world, media at the moment, in my opinion, and a lot of people would agree, that it, in a lot of instances, does not have a good influence. And the problem with media is it's an old saying, the platforms have changed, the technology have changed, but those who control the media control the mind, because media works in our minds all the time. It influences our decision, it influences our moods, it influences our mental health. So when I started in this industry and I started to understand it more and more, I realized that probably was the calling to end up here in this space, in this industry, to establish something where media could have a positive impact, and to counter what we've seen, the profit made from fear and hate and anxiety, which is so prevalent in the world today. So establishing and pulling together a purpose-driven business, and I'll share our purpose statement with you just now, is something that came from my heart, and I started in this business, and it's been a journey. Debbie said you have to be kind to yourself, and it takes time to write down things. And the statements that I share with you, we started in 2018. Most of them we only wrote down in 2021. But what happened over that time is that we've gathered people in the business whose hearts were in the same place, and we had a connection. So when we went through the exercise to write down our purpose statements and the values, we actually did it in sessions where we asked people, what are important to you? And through those conversations, we distilled it down. So what ended up to be our purpose statements are things that came from the people that were around the table and on the bus. Not all of them, but an influential group of them. So the Tribe 5 Studios journey started in 2018. I joined One Africa TV, and we moved into the same building with 99 FM. And we started the process, and currently Tribe 5 Studios now is the holding company of 99 FM and One Africa Television. It started in a time when media was going through, the business model in media is going through serious disruption due to digital media. So you've seen a massive decline in the revenues that came through to traditional media platforms, and money going out to Facebook and the social media platforms. So that digital disruption all across the world has put a lot of pressure on the business models that media companies had. Then we were coming out of a recession, well, coming out. There was a recession in Namibia going on, which really put a strain on businesses, and we thought it was bad before COVID hit in 2020. And yeah, in April, May, and June, in our business, we had less than 40% of our revenues that we had from the previous year. And it's been a struggle from there. So financially, and in terms of business strategy and business model, it's been a very tough space. And that's one of the things that has forced me, if you have to operate in that kind of environment, and you look around you and you say, I have people that I want to give jobs to, I want to make a meaningful contribution in the world, you have to understand purpose, and you have to live by your purpose. So it is a tough place to be in, but in some ways it's a fortunate place that you're so forced to focus on doing the right thing for the right reason, and believing that that is what will make a business survive in the long run. So yeah, we're 3 years into the journey. And as I said, this year we sat together and we pulled key people in our team together, and we defined our statements. So our purpose statement, we defined as we fire up minds for positive change. So media works in the mind, and when we speak to ourselves in our business, if you in radio, if you're writing something for a social media post, if you're doing a news story, we are constantly working in people's minds. And the question is, that power that we have to speak into people's minds and influence the way that they think, what do we do with that? Will we use that power to create positive change in the world? So that purpose statement was a bit longer, and I'll share a bit with you later about having a sticky statement. We had to tune it down a bit so that we all could remember it. And then with our values, we ended up defining 3 value questions. So those are guiding questions. And what we try and do is when we go around and during the day, and every time that we take a decision, we have to measure ourselves against these value questions. And a good decision is one that we can say it creates hope, that we've explored every possible opportunity and applied our creativity to make sure that there is a way to do it. And the last one is it fair? So the 3 value questions: does it create hope? Is it the only way, which speaks to creative solutions? And is it fair in the way that we interact with the ecosystem and the stakeholders that we are dealing with? And yeah, there's some practical examples that I'll also go through in the thoughts that I shared later. So with a mission, that is the thing that we're busy with at the moment. So as Tribe 5 Studios, we're obviously in media, and it's a holding company where our mission is to grow influential media brands that shape Namibian and African minds for a better future. So specifically working in the media space, and it's about building strong media brands that have audiences around them, that follow the content, and because the brands add value to their lives, we'll have those eyes and ears so that we can communicate to those people and influence them positively. And yes, we started our journey in the beginning, and we asked all our people that were in the room, what is your vision of the world? So the same exercise that we did today. And we came up with imagining a world where every person has a fair chance to achieve his or her full potential. And I think one of my experiences, there is in all of us as human beings, there's this disconnect about when we answer this question and we see a utopia, a wonderful world that we want to have for ourselves, But when we get to the daily grind and when we have to deliver, we often have this disconnect between the way that we do things and really thinking about the outcomes that of what we do on a daily basis, and aligning that to say, is that going to grow into the world that we imagine? So I'm just sharing 10 thoughts with you. It's not everything. It's I sat down and I thought through our process, and I thought, what are some of the biggest lessons that I've learned? What are some of the things that we are struggling most with? And I took them down to 10. So those are the 10 that I want to share with you today. And hopefully some of them resonate with you, or you can learn something from it, or you have some bright ideas that you can share with me later on. So the first one is get the bosses out of the way. Now, this is a very personal one. I left PwC and a corporate environment where I was doing very well, and I had a good career, and I was earning well at the time, and I came here. And initially my thought was, I'll take this business and I'll fix it up, and I'll get all the shares in a way, and I'll sell it for a profit. And I started the journey, and then I realized, is it really about that? And how do you spend years and days just chasing that dream of, how do I make the most money out of this thing? And as I sit here, our office is very open plan, and especially in the beginning, I sat here and I look around at all the people sitting around and thinking about the salaries that we pay, and will we be able to pay that salary at the end of the month? And what family does it look after? Everything that we put out on air, what is the impact on that? And that for me was a journey to clarify my mind about what is success in this business. And I think in the journey, for me as the CEO of the business, and obviously someone who has a lot of influence on where we go, is redefining success from monetary success, that for 17 years in my corporate job, most of the time I believe successful business people are the ones who make a lot of money, to being in a business where I say a successful business is a business that has a significant positive impact on everyone and everything that it touches. And it's positive for the employees, it's possible for the audiences, for the clients that we serve. It contributes to the suppliers that we work with. It is positive in its contribution to the government, and it serves that whole ecosystem. So getting the ego and the perceptions of the leaders in the business out of the way to say the business will come first is a very important step. And you need to do that with the CEO, but with every exco member, and from there on to with every team leader, so that everyone can say this business comes before me. And how do we measure success for the business? The second one is have enough grown-ups on the bus. So yeah, before all the youth throw me with stones, this was a lesson that we've learned in an industry which is vibrant. There was a lot of change. There are also a lot of creative people in the industry, and the structures are not always as fixed as it would be in a bank, for example. And what we learned is that we need enough people in the business that understand their personal purpose, that are mature in terms of their personal purpose, to understand how do they connect to this business and to help carry the purpose of the business. And if you're balanced between mature people that are able to help carry that journey and the young, hopeful, vibrant people that are still learning and growing and haven't figured out their purpose, you have an imbalance there, you really struggle. And we've come to a point now where we said we really need to make sure that we need more people that understand purpose, that are mature in that sense. It's not age, in terms of their thinking and in terms of independent decision-making ability and maturity, that can hold hands to grow a next generation of people to get to the same place. maybe just the last thing on that point, and I think that's one of the big learnings as well. It's, for me, it's a big difference between a purpose-driven business and a business that runs purely for profit, for example. In a business that is not purpose-driven, it's much less human. You can build much stronger checklists and processes and systems, and you can cope with people having much less decision-making power. When you want to be purpose-driven and you want to address all these needs of the world out there, the people that take decisions need more authority and better judgment to be able to take decisions on behalf of the business. And that's where that maturity comes from. So lesson 3 is you need money for the ride. And you're very lucky if you are in an industry or in a business that is booming at the time and there is a lot of money to play with and to do things with. I wasn't in that opportunity. Our team wasn't in that opportunity. We have that opportunity. We were in an industry that is declining with financial pressure, and we needed to restructure. But the important point is money is the baseline. It makes the world go round. So the first thing that you need to do is to restructure and make sure that you have financial stability, that there's stable financial ground under your feet. If you don't have that, you can't start working on purpose and vision and all of those things. You will, I mean, the world just moves under you all the time. The fourth one is have sticky statements. So I told you that our purpose statement used to be much longer and we made it shorter. And we spend a lot of time thinking about these things. And then we had my wife, who's a copywriter, and Debbie and I and Zelmarie, who's in the team, and we contributed and we wrote these perfect, beautiful statements with the right words that capture absolutely everything. And then we ended up in situations where I'm in a radio interview and I myself struggle to recall the purpose statement. And I just realized what is more important is that it's short enough and clear enough that everyone can remember it, that it sticks in their minds, and that it can become part of the daily conversations, and that we use it every day when we do our work, when we start a meeting, when we talk to each other, when we take decisions. We should ask the questions: is it fair? Does it create hope? Or will it bring positive change? So make it short, make it sticky so that people can remember it easily. Otherwise, you will never entrench it. Talk is cheap and brutal honesty is necessary. And this, Debbie spoke about purpose washing. It is a very subtle thing, and one has to be extremely honest with yourself about your intentions all the time. And especially when it is about pulling this golden thread of purpose through everything in your business, you get to points where you're just extremely frustrated with a supplier, and you just want to act in a way that's going to sort it out. And then pull yourself back and say, well, is this the positive impact that I want to have? Is this the positive change? What will the impact on the supplier or on this employee be? When we draft policies for employees, to really sit down and go back and check those things and say, is it really in line with what we set our hearts and our minds out to do? And it's a constant process, and a strong team that constantly are honest with each other and remind each other and call each other out when you digress from it. So the sixth one is trust the process. And yeah, I said it took us 3 years, and I started off the process thinking about a recipe in my head of how we're going to do these things. So, and I had a checklist of, we will do this, then we'll write these statements, then we'll put out these policies, then we'll change the marketing material in this way. And very little of it worked out in that way. And we ended up with a lot of things just starting out and getting things totally wrong and pulling back and changing and starting out with some people who went with us for a while, and then you just realize this is not going to work. And then the people changed. And eventually we went through a process where there is a time when it is right and things just start falling in place. So it is a process where you must be kind with yourself, but at the same time be very intuitive about what is happening around you and the messages that you're getting from clients and from the people around you and from employees and suppliers, that you must really listen to the people around you and not push them aside and just force through processes. And yeah, feel what is going on and constantly test your intentions with where you are going. The seventh one is about, and this is a change management point. So the advice there is to start with the early movers and to limit the mic for the naysayers. So Simon Sinek also has this very nice graph, and I mean, it's common change management theory. You have early adopters, people that want to try out new things and are excited and are keen to move. And then you have some people that are just passive in the middle and they're open to be convinced. And then you have guys at the end of the curve that will not do anything unless they're absolutely forced to. And one of the mistakes we made, I think, in the beginning was we tried to take everyone along. So we had big meetings and I did presentations to everyone, and then yeah, some activists would put up their hands or people would send messages afterwards, or you just hear the negativity and the pushback and the grapevine all the time. So if I had to do something different, I would follow that process to start with the early adopters and make them purpose champions and take those people that buy in and help them to create, get them to help to create the energy that moves everybody else. And pay a lot less attention to the people that are making a lot of negative noise that often for us took up a lot of headspace and a lot of time. So the eighth lesson is around systems. And yeah, you'll see this one says to be confirmed, because this is one of the areas where we are grappling at the moment and doing a lot of work at the moment. So as I said, in a purpose-driven business, it's about humans. And it is about the difference that we want to make. And a lot of it is hard decisions. The other side of the pole is a bank where you have a checklist and everybody knows what the procedure is, or it's a production line and you tick through it and you get it done. It runs sometimes like clockwork, and it's very efficient to run a checklist production line kind of system. But with a purpose-driven business, that's not what we want to achieve. We want to achieve our purpose, but also striking that balance where everything that we do is not a big discussion and we cannot kumbaya about every point. At some point, we have to have that balance to say, for these things, we talk and we feel. For these things, we need very good, clever systems that can help us be efficient and that can simplify our decision-making process. And to find the right systems that allow you that flexibility. So yeah, currently we've just changed our people system and moved to the Zoho people system. And I've personally spent a lot of time in detail in the system, looking and finding that flexibility to sometimes gives managers more decision-making power about something, and some things the system should just sort out and there's not even any discussion about it. The point here is you have to still have systems and look for clever systems and good IT systems that put you in a position where the majority of your time could be spent thinking about achieving purpose and really chasing the heart of what you set out to do. The ninth one is also one of the struggles, and I don't know if you ever win this one. But hopefully, I believe there would be a tipping point. And it is about communication. So we've fallen in a lot of traps about thinking that people are on the same page and then realizing a lot of people are just not on that page. And it is about communicating and saying something 7 times before people hear it, ingest it, and really understand it. So talking up a tipping point is the challenge that you have, that you must communicate in a structured way with a plan, using the right platforms, that you can convince enough people on that curve that the whole organization are at a point where when you walk around in the corridors, you hear people using the right narrative and saying the right things. And this one is difficult for me. Some days I think we are there, and then some days I think we're totally not making progress. But as I said to Debbie today, I think in this journey, the direction is much more important than the quantum of progress that you've made. So our direction with that is right. And then the 10th one is also something that we're currently working on, and that is a difficult one. Debbie said it is at the heart of a purpose-driven business to measure the impact that you have. So if you say our impact is to fire up mines, and the question is, so how many mines have we fired up? Then everyone around the table just look at each other blankly, because yeah, we don't know. And how much positive change have you had in the world? And obviously those things, what we've learned, are tricky to define. So it takes a lot of work to go through those processes and say, okay, so if we're talking about firing up minds, how many eyes and ears are we reaching? From those people that are reaching, how many are engaging with us? And with those, you can come to some kind of metrics that can show you a direction of the change. I think what I've also settled with initially, as the accountant in me likes to have, here's the number, there's the target, you met 98% of the target, so you are not there. And what I'm learning in this process, because it's human, it's organic, it is messy, it is about taking a step in the direction and saying, did we move? Did we aim high enough? And did we get as close as we can? But writing that down and getting that into a system that is measurable and clearly understandable, and that people can on a daily basis say, step into their job, and what am I going to do today to give them clear direction so that they can move along those metrics or measurements, is a journey that we are currently busy with. So yeah, maybe in a year's time you can ask me more questions about that. But that was one of our big learning areas at the moment. So those are my 10 thoughts. I think I'll close the session there, and say thank you very much for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to share. Really, with these sessions that Debbie and I have had, it is about firing up minds for people to have these conversations, and to find the people that are also passionate about business that have a positive impact in the world. And then, yeah, I think as a last challenge, or as a last comment, I would like to challenge you that, one, to work on your personal purpose, because all the change that we have in the world will come from people who understand their purpose and move in that direction. And then if you move into organizations and you become part of teams, to challenge there and to make sure that those organizations are moving in the direction of the world that you imagine and that the team imagines. And then the last one is, yeah, maybe it's a bit blunt, but it is also because I'm in this industry of media, and because of what I've seen happening in the media landscape. And I think the role that media has to play in a society is incredibly important. The role that media has to play in a democracy has been proven to be crucially important. And the collapse of local media, and strong local journalism, and good media practitioners is a big concern for a society. And it's up to media companies to pay the salaries for those people, to develop the training courses and send those people on training courses, to host and run media systems that are fair, and where there's accountability, and where there is double checking, and that complies with journalistic standards. And to do those things, you need revenue streams. At this stage, most of it comes from advertising, until we've managed to totally revise the model, but it's advertising and it is sponsorships. So my challenge to you is also support local media. Local media, for us as a society, we need good local media, and for that, local media needs financial support. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefan. Claire. Oh, you're on mute, Claire.
Okay. we were going to break up into breakaway groups for discussions, but I think after those two presentations, we all want to hear what everyone has to say. So let's keep it to the general group. But on that point, again, if you want to find someone who says something that triggers you, go and find them privately. That was incredibly powerful, both of you. Thank you. And lots and lots of food for thought. And I'm sure there will be many, many questions. Stefan, I love your journey. It's really brave. Support
Thanks,
local
Claire.
media, fair enough, but it's quite difficult at this point, you have to admit. So someone's got to raise the levels. There's your challenge. I had another thing to say, but I'll get there later. People.
Yeah, I see Richard suggested an article for me to read, so I'm definitely going to check out the book. It's interesting that British Academy publication is also Colin Mayer, the quote that I gave in the beginning about purpose-driven business. He's involved there, so I'm definitely going to check out the book. Any questions or comments or?
A question from Alexander for Debbie.
Yeah. So the question is, have you seen a shift in businesses doing more for their purpose during the pandemic, and or more businesses becoming purpose-driven to stay afloat? Okay, so that's okay, there's two questions there. So the one is, and I actually didn't mention this earlier, so I just want to clarify that purpose, most businesses have a purpose, okay? Because I mean, I come from the brand industry and most brands have a purpose. And the purpose that we're specifically talking about is purpose for positive impact in society, okay? So yes, actually, there's been a huge focus, and specifically if I look at the brand space and how people have communicated on purpose during the pandemic. One, as I said, private sector has jumped in. Okay, so a lot of businesses and brands have jumped in terms of their CSR, whether or not it's aligned with their purpose and their organizational purpose that was to help in the pandemic. So there's been a big shift in, okay, saying, okay, cool, we're going to help collectively. We understand that this is a huge problem and we are going to support. There has been a massive consumer awareness and shift of who is doing what. Okay, in the UK, they actually launched a website that said didtheyhelp.com. Okay, where consumers could actually go on and say, oh, this business has helped, okay, in terms of really helping with what's going on in the pandemic. So yes, there's definitely been an uptake on that, whether some of that, a lot of that may or may not have been purpose washing with businesses jumping onto the bandwagon, but a lot of it comes from a genuine space. The second question, in terms of businesses becoming purpose-driven to stay afloat. So what I've seen is a lot of businesses internationally, globally, that are purpose-driven were able to pivot a lot easier to stay afloat. Okay, so when you, and I mean, I can use Simon Sinek himself as an example, just to demonstrate how it works. And Simon Sinek's purpose is to help people come alive and feel like they're making a meaningful contribution to the world and really being inspired in their spaces. Okay, so when COVID hit, okay, and he makes money from presentations. That's what he does. He goes to conferences around the world, he writes books, and he makes money from presentations. So when COVID hit, he said that the logical thing for him would have been just to pivot to online presentations, virtual. Cool, I make money from presentations, now I'm going to do presentations online. But because he was purpose-driven, he went back to his purpose and said, okay, how can I still fulfill my purpose in a new space? Okay, and he has now gone into a whole lot of different virtual courses and partnering with people who really work in that space. So a lot of people, and there's also a transitional thing. Oh, sorry, I'm taking a long time at Alexander's question, but just quickly, it is also okay during pandemics and during COVID or in a recession, it's okay to temporarily pivot outside of your purpose. Okay, so if you need a pivot to hand sanitizers for a temporary period of time that is not directly aligned with the purpose of your organization. Okay, and if you think back to Ikigai, it just means that your purpose would be a little bit smaller. You would still be using your skills and assets. You would be still fulfilling a need in the world, and you would be making a return on that. But it's not sustainable. For the long term, in 2 years' time, you're going to wake up and go, why did I get back into hand sanitizers? Like from a personal space and in terms of really fulfilling your own personal purpose. So I hope that answers your question, Alexander. Cool. There's so many people. Richard's got his hand up. Had his hand up for a while. Richard, let me unmute him.
Can you now hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, I'm working from a cell phone. I'm not quite sure how it works with Zoom yet. We talk about purpose. I want to pick up your point, and you mentioned it very briefly, that people might use purpose like responsible business or ecotourism, and it soon becomes lost in terms of the marketing. And whether one would try and shift this to values and centered around values. I come from a banking background in my former life. I know a lot of people that are purpose driven, and that is to make money, and it's make money for their organizations and make money for themselves, and they have a purpose. And I do think perhaps if one doesn't drill down even further than calling it purposeful business and values and build it around the understanding and the difference between the value of finance, the value of market to the values of humans, and to start working around that, it might be an easier transition to generate in the industry when one gets to that type of focus. Because I think one could get lost with purposeful business with that definition, like we often do with others. Just some of your reflection on that. And again, I'm sorry I put those two comments, chats on, and I think they came a bit too late, or one after the other. There's a really good, also Mark Carney did a fantastic talk, I think over four talks on the Ruth Reith lectures, and it's really worth listening to. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Richard. No, I think it's really valuable. I'll go and check out those books, definitely. So just in terms of, it's really interesting that you bring up the values, because when I talk about, and Simon Sinek talks about why and how being your guiding principles and values. So for me, and I'm actually doing some work at the moment with Monica Sharma, who, through radical transformational leadership, and a lot of the work that the MIT does in terms of shifting systems. And they talk a lot about shared values and universal values and operating from that space. And interestingly enough, I hope I'm going to answer this question. Jim Collins puts values up above purpose, okay, which is, and if you've read his latest book, and he goes through it. So for me, it is incredible. The shared values exercise is absolutely amazing, especially in terms of personal purpose. But purpose is something different, okay, to values. And I agree with you. I mean, there's a whole different discussion on purpose washing, and if purpose is really it's going to become muddy, and you know what I mean, people can get lost in the messaging of communicating. But purpose is an internal thing. Okay, so it inspires a team to come together around something shared, which is definitely hand in hand with values. Okay, but values can also become a little bit not to say generic, but I mean, there are shared universal values. So there's a couple of values that you work from. Purpose together with values starts to create some sort of unique kind of positioning for you and what you're trying to achieve in the world. So if I use Patagonia as an example, like they're in the business to save our home planet. That's their purpose, okay? And it's very, very, very strongly supported by their guiding values and how they operate in the world. But if they just had their guiding values, it wouldn't link back to that, that real essence of, and if you say that, like for me, I don't know if you're a Patagonia person, but I mean, for me, immediately, and that's, Stefan talks about a sticky statement, we're in the business to save this home planet, okay? Straight away, I get that, and they are supported by those big guiding values or principles that guide that. And then obviously, guys, you have got to, in an organization, personal values and shared values and how you link into that bigger force is incredibly important, because there has got to be a connection. And I've actually, I look about the accountants in the room, and Stefan's an accountant and my husband's an accountant. And I've started to think that accounting is the most flexible career. It's a wonderful space because you can be an accountant in any business. So if you align yourself, and I talk about, and often talk about to Stefan about, advertising for people to come and work in your business. And you can get so many accountants. If you want a finance director, okay, you can get so many financial directors. But you want somebody who cares about that purpose, being in the business to save our home planet, and also then about those guiding principles. But they might be very different. So each individual, because remember also they might have diverse shared values. My values are about authenticity and creativity and passion, whereas yours might be something totally different, but we might both aspire to be in the business to save our home planet, which also brings interesting thinking and diversity into the mix. I hope that kind of answers my view on it or perspective.
So Debs, if I can just say a quick thing. So when we're following a kind of model here, and for me, one of the learnings is, there's many ways to try and structure the kind of effect that you want to have. And the way that I've made it up for myself in my mind, when we can use all these terms and argue about how they fit, in the end, it's about how does it land in the world? What is the impact that it has in the people that operate in the business and the people around? And what you do with the words and which model you follow to get there, in my mind, is less important. So it's almost pick one that is going to move you in that direction towards that impact. And yeah, if that one doesn't work, try another one.
Cool. David, I think your hand up was next, and then we'll go back to the chat because Tuapira has a question. David?
Okay, it's not actually David, but Dakonja here. Yes,
sorry,
yes.
Can you forget your name?
Yes, yes, exactly. Firstly, Debbie and Stefan, kudos to the amazing presentations, a solid 10 out of 10. You guys spoke directly to my heart, right? So, and now my question is, so personally, I'm in the purpose education business with Purposeful Camp Namibia, and something that frustrates me a lot is that how do you even get to start people to even actually start, Simon Sinek says that you need to start with a why, but how do you even get to, how do you get people to even start considering their whys? Because I best believe maybe for you guys' age group, it's much easier to convince. But now I'm working with a youth age group whereby money is one of their biggest, whereby money is one of their biggest models. But now, how do we start channeling people's mindsets into actually thinking about their purpose and thinking about their why? It frustrates me a lot in the type of business that I'm in.
Cool. Can I take that one, Stefan?
Yes.
It's exciting. So, I mean,
but keep it short.
We
There's
could
a lot
definitely
of
have
questions.
coffee or a virtual coffee sometime. I'd love to chat and help you. Well, give you my, sorry, I'll keep it short. Okay, so very quick. So if you look at Simon Sinek and the way that he structures it, and he goes to the emotional, your old brain, which is the emotional part of the brain, and then the rational, how we always want to come to the rational part of the brain. It's really difficult for people. When you say, oh, think about your purpose, it's so hard for people to get there. So there's a lot of different tools. I mean, I've got about 7 or 8 different ways to do it that helps. What really worked for me is if you start to develop an awareness of what you love doing, what you like doing. I created a love list. Okay, I called it a love list and a hate list. I've also had a little strong dislike list on the side. But it's to actually start to develop an awareness of the space that you're happy in. What do you love doing? So I literally wrote down, I love analyzing Excel spreadsheets. I hated small talk. And in that is a very nice tangible in terms of your rational brain is to start to get to the deeper messages. But I mean, I can share some of the things that I do, and we can have a maybe in-depth chat if that answers your question. But it's really about awareness.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do that on both of, so I'll WhatsApp you both, Debbie and Stefan, and we can schedule some coffee. I'd love to get to tap your minds.
Cool.
Cool. Great,
awesome.
Thanks.
Excellent. I think Cheryl asked a question about how do you find your own purpose? So I think Debbie commented on it now. Cheryl, Debbie actually has a very nice little process that I've gone through, and some people on my team have gone through. It's something which is a journey that you need to work on. And there's a number of tools that you can follow. So Debbie can maybe share with the group when you're going to do a session again on personal purpose. It's a nice place to start.
Stefan, there's a question here from Tapiwa. Thank you for the refresher, Stefan. Purpose indeed is what will propel us in our businesses forward. I loved your point about having adults on the bus. I've paid a huge price by having too many kids on the bus and not enough adults to pull with. Okay, comment.
Yeah,
and then
good
Cheryl,
point.
okay, personal purpose. From Esty Moritz, how do you monitor your own limitations in a purpose context within organizations?
Sure, that's a
I know.
that's a difficult one. I mean, for me personally, I mean, it is about knowing yourself. I mean, for me, it's always been a journey to understand where are my weaknesses, and I grew up with a principle in teams is play your strengths and pull people in where you have your weaknesses. So, really, in terms of limitations. And the way we run into walls, it is for me about the people that I gather in a team around me that either fill some of the gaps where I fall short or help me to see where I fall short. Because often it is about blind spots and the things where we have our biggest disadvantages are the blind spots. We have no objectivity about ourselves, and you need brutally honest people around you that can call you out and point those things out to you, and you have to be able to take it.
It's an incredible thing because there's Simon Sinek, I'll reference him a lot, also talks about why people and how people. Okay, so not everybody can be a visionary. Okay, so not everybody is a visionary, but everybody has a why. So a lot of people are how people. Okay, and how people, I mean, I love how people, the people that come in and they make the vision reality. Okay, so it's very interesting, and like Stefan says, it's about awareness of who you are and how you fit into the context, and looking at your own limitations and how you can, it's okay, and how other people fill those gaps in terms of those limitations. Ulla, I think Ulla's had a question, her hand up for quite a while. If Ulla, we can go to Ulla.
I have it indeed. Hi guys. Let me try and do my video as well. It doesn't work.
It works,
hi guys. I find this fascinating. Thank you for really thought-provoking talks. I've got two comments. One comment to you, Stefan, and that is you in your purpose line. You were saying that media or you are wanting to shape minds. I was finding that a bit provocative, I must say, because that means that you have the answers and they don't, and you need to shape them. That's the one thing I'd like some conversation around that. The other question I have to you, the purpose-driven organization needs to be lived by the employees of the organization. What means do you use to kind of align minds? Is it language? Is it incentive? What is it? I'd really be interested in how you live that.
Thanks, Ulla. So yeah, the interesting comment about the first one, we definitely didn't think about it in that way. And I mean, really our thinking is when we look at ourselves and you look at a media brand, it is, we are a channel. So we get people who come and they speak on radio and we channel them to an audience and we capture a news story and we send it out on the other side. So if it is about shaping minds, it was, I mean, the intention behind it was about a positive influence, and the shaping also comes, I mean, a lot of the detail under that was about neurological pathways and the ways that we think and how we amplify the voices that help us to form positive neurological pathways. So yeah, I think you hear my part, but it's always interesting to see how people read the words and in a different way than you intended it. In terms of, I mean, how do we motivate people to buy into the purpose? I mean, it's honestly the most difficult thing. We had our Exco meeting again yesterday, and you're sitting with this carrot and the stick, and do we incentivize and are we nice, and do we train more? And sometimes do you just issue warnings for people that don't toe the line? And when do you get to the point with some people where you can clearly say they're not going to fit in? So when we've now been dealing with cases where we just had discussions with people and say, you don't think in this way, we're never going to be on the same page, and we constantly going to have conflict. And yeah, for me also, then you end up making people's lives painful if you're constantly on their case, and it's just not their dream and their thing. So one of it is words, and it is conversations for me that I've said to people all the time. This is what this business is about. You have to understand what you are about. And if that does not align, you're not in the right place. And then we should talk, where is your space? Where should you go? And where would you be better aligned? And for everyone in this business, I want 80% of people to be in the sweet spot of their purpose, or at least to have a 70% overlap between personal purpose and business purpose.
Yeah.
So most of that, I would like to do in that way. Yeah, we are forced that you have to get to the situation where you have to pull out the stick and just sort of clearly put down the lines. And with some of that, we've waited too long. It is one of the risks that it's soft and it's human, it's organic, and some things slide because you're driving this process where you should have just taken a stance. But it's difficult judgments.
Can I just also comment there, Ulla? I think it's really, sorry, Ulla, it is critically important for people to understand their personal purposes. So in that space, in terms of the connection, to help teams connect with the purpose of the organization, they need to also do work on themselves and understand what their values are and what that space, if they even connect in that space. And it's really important in terms of the brand messaging that goes out there. If people, like we said, and I mean, it's really difficult if you're transforming an organization and you're working with everybody that you've already got on the bus. That's very different to a startup where you can actually say, oh, cool, we're going to advertise or communicate in a certain way and get the right people to connect because they're coming because of our purpose. And I mean, I think Stefan can attest to the fact that a lot of the people that have come into his team, like Zal, who's on the call, I think, actually came from 99's inspiring Namibians to master their destiny. She connected with that purpose and arrived on the door and said, I'm here. Like, where do you guys need me? Like, I believe in what you're doing. Where do you need me? And then you can apply amazing skills in certain spaces. But if it connects with a personal purpose, then that's easy to move. So I think it's really about really helping people to understand their own space in the world.
But it's really a new language. It could be a new language. It could be completely different thinking, different approaches. I don't want to, but thank you.
Yeah,
for
we can.
So I think Zal asked the question, can a business be successful if not everyone in the team believes or works towards the purpose? And I think we've answered that to a large extent now. In my personal opinion, you need the bulk of people to be moving with a purpose. Then you can have a small group of people that might be neutral, and the people that push against the purpose must be in the minority. And it's important to be brutally honest about that and have the honest conversations and exit people from the business who do not fit.
Yeah, Jim Collins also talks about that, the percentages of people that need to be there, in terms of moving things forward and working against it.
So I'm on the next question. Debbie, how do you think we can become a purposeful country? I heard that Rwanda developed a national purpose statement. The way you were asked.
Yeah, okay. That's massive. Look, it can be done. It absolutely can be done. But I think, again, okay, and I didn't actually say this earlier, and I wanted to say this. I've worked with a lot of businesses. It is really difficult. It can be done to work from within a team and push purpose out or up, okay, into the organizational space. It can be done. It is really difficult. Okay, if you get a team together and they're purpose driven, they have a vision, and they actually, in terms of this early adopters, actually move it out into an organization. Okay, if you're trying to build or transform into a country or transform a business into a purpose driven space, you need the shareholders, the investors, the owners, the executive management to buy into and lead that process. Okay, so that is critical. Purpose, just developing a purpose statement, I can do that any day. We can do that as a team. I know, Ulla, we can all work together. We can put together a purpose statement for an organization or thing. It will not fly. It will become the poster on the wall, the good old vision and mission statements that sit there and they gather dust and everybody walks past them in reception. So you can do it if it is authentic. If you go back to those points, it's a genuine intent to move towards that. It's authentic. It is, you have everybody on board in terms of the people driving the processes, and then you have to connect it through to everything, to the change that happens on the ground. So it is possible, but there's a couple of boxes that need to be ticked for that to happen. And Rwanda is doing some amazing stuff in some amazing spaces. Cool.
Okay, I think those were all the questions we had in the chat, unless there's still someone that we missed out.
No, that's cool.
Should I wrap up?
Yes, thanks, Claire.
Claire.
Whoa. Well, just on your point of people on the same page, I think this group is proof that we all 100% have the same purpose, and that's why it's working. Facetious question, where to from here? Do we monetize this? No, joking. But yeah, where to from here? So that needs to be a point of discussion.
He's smiling behind you, Claire.
I know. Now I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, but that's evident that this is working. And yes, Stefan, this is for you. Debbie, I'm so glad we recorded this, because I think this should go onto a bigger platform. Obviously, you're going to put it on the 29ers, but Stefan, I think your presentation, Debbie's presentation, can't you do something with them on 99 or One Africa? It's too valuable to be lost. I really think so. So there's got to be a creative way to get this out there wider, more widely. It's been an amazing discussion tonight, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm actually very encouraged to see how many people there were. So if we have to go this route again, it works. And yes, again, just encouraging everyone to interact with each other. If you have a question for Ulla, reach out to Ulla. We don't always have to work through the group. It becomes untidy. So just keep communicating, which is what it's all about, always. And yeah, together we can. And yeah, just my purpose, I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. I think it's hidden somewhere on that 29ers great scheme of things. But the mission or the purpose there, mine is just do the right thing. And to me, that encompasses everything and includes fairness and da-da-da-da-da and whatever. So, yeah, if anyone wants to change that, or if we can work on that for the group. But to me, that's neat, memorable, and not sticky. Yeah, but let's talk about moving forward, everybody. Where to from here?
Thanks, Claire, and thank you very much for the opportunity. It was a privilege to do this tonight. And thank you, everyone, for listening, and it was great connecting with you.
Yeah, thank you. And we can definitely have coffee. I see Ulla wants a coffee there. And yeah, if anybody can get in touch, off my website, Think Human Being, or off Stefan's Tribe Fire Studios. And yeah, we can, well, I think you guys have our WhatsApp numbers anyway on the group or in the channel, Slack channel. We can have a chat there as well. Thank you so much, Claire. Really, I was so grateful to have an opportunity just to blab about what I'm passionate about. And we can chat, we can have to do another session on ethical market and when good people use bad mediums for the right cause.
Please. While we're on that, if anyone has a passionate topic for the next session and would like to present and get a group together like this, please just contact me privately. And yeah, please post this on the group and Slack. And thank you everyone for being here. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.